Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL strategy show, Thanksgiving edition. Yeah. Jojo, no, not a 4-egg sandwich. I did, however, and Greg can bear witness to this, did just have a nice little 4-egg omelet. Dropped one egg on the ground, had to clean that up, but pulled another one out. Little sausage, onions, red peppers. Pretty delicious. So I'm good to go, man. You got, look, sometimes you gotta just do what you gotta do in a spot like this. You come in, you got a lot of work to do on a 1 hour sim strategy show. Greg and myself, man, if you come in unprepared, if you come in hungry, it could be a tough morning. And with a Thanksgiving slate upon us, man, one of the greatest times of the year for sports in general, we got to be on our game. So what's good, brother? Ben and I did the first look show yesterday, and I think this will be really interesting now that we have more data updated and the single lineup sims to dig into.
Yeah, and as you said as well, leading up to this, really good Thanksgiving Day games as well. Probably the best Thanksgiving slate that I could remember, where you've got games like KC, Dallas. Dallas have been playing much better as of late. The Chiefs sort of fighting for a playoff spot. Like, I feel pretty confident they're going to make it, but that is still something a little bit up in the air. You got the Ravens taking on the Bengals with Joe Burrow returning. Then you've also got the Lions playing the Packers. So all three of these games I'm interested in. And we've had good Thanksgiving slates in the past, but I don't remember a slate where I was actually excited for all three of the games in a significant way.
Yeah, it's, I said it yesterday, but I'll say it again now. Every team has an implied total of 23 or higher. That's pretty significant when you consider, like, last year, you had the Giants on that slate with Drew Lock starting, and all of these interesting, ugly, terrible spots. Like the Dolphins, that game, remember how cold it was in Green Bay? 10, 15 mile per hour winds. It was 27 degrees. I remember it vividly because Malik Washington muffed that punt early in the game, and they ended up losing by 13. As a matter of fact, I wanted to show you something before we get into this, relative to this slate, but also last year as well. And I think you guys will find this interesting. Let me zoom in on it a little bit here before I bring it up, and then we'll start building some lineups out. I want your thoughts, though, Greg, because I find this stuff fascinating to go back and look at previous builds and to see what people can do. So last year, the Millie Maker winner, the Mega Millionaire. Now, this was a smaller field, but everything's the same logic applies, right? To a lesser extent. And like the $5 lotto is still a $5 lotto. There's like 600,000 people in it. But this one, if you remember last year, it was Stokastic Sims user. Remember DC Spicoli took this down? And I went into our post-contest sim, started digging around on it a little bit to see actually how he won. Dude, he won with a Dolphins triple stack. They were down 24-3 at halftime. They finished with 17 points, but he ended up, he faded Gibbs and CeeDee Lamb. They were the two highest owned players at their respective positions. He had none of them, and he had all three of the Miami guys that ended up actually being needed. So it's just funny to me where I look at a slate like this. Also, he had Allen and DJ Moore. They were down 23-7 and 16-0. They caught the only 3 touchdowns from Caleb Williams in the game that got Matt Eberflus fired. So he didn't do anything crazy. He had no low-owned plays in a traditional, like, short slate low-owned at all. He just didn't have the two guys at like 50+%. And he had all of the guys from teams that had to throw for 4 straight quarters. Found that pretty interesting to look at a slate like that, knowing this was a Thanksgiving one.
It's funny how the sneaky best game script for a stack is to be down 3 scores at one point.
Yes, always. Look at Jacoby Brissett 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Or I got another one, Davis Mills 3 weeks ago. Davis Mills, weren't they down like 26-10 or something, 26-7?
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which other ones have been like that this year. What else? There's definitely been a handful more of them. I'm just kind of blanking on them right now. But if you could predict,
was another good one.
If you could predict which team is going to be down 20-0 at halftime and leave their starters in for the entirety of the game, you probably have yourself a GPP winning stack.
So I'll say this, and I know you're saying that somewhat tongue in cheek, but it is true that, like, the best game script many times is a team playing from behind and sometimes a not great team playing from behind because none of the guys are overpriced. So when you take a team like even Miami last year, they weren't cheap, but they weren't expensive. Or again, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore there. Remember, the Bears were not a great football team last year. Those guys were both probably in the 5K range. Jacoby Brissett paired with McBride, who was underpriced, and a dirt cheap Michael Wilson with Marvin Harrison Jr. out. When you get those type of spots, it actually does work a lot. Now, sometimes it's not going to work and the team's just going to be terrible, but there's definitely an instance where that happens. And, I look at Cincinnati this week, and that's what we can segue into the show here. As always, atone for your sins, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below your favorite way to play this slate. We read and try to respond to these comments, so appreciate you guys in advance. And of course, if you're listening in podcast form, we see you, we hear you out there. Leave a rating and a review. Greg and I are always good about reading these lineups off, so you don't feel, overlooked or unwelcome. But I wanted to segue into this with, like, Baltimore's a 7-point, or sorry, Cincinnati's a 7-point dog, and with no T. Higgins, yes, you have the expensive Jamar Chase, who's going to be popular. But aside from that, you have a cheap Mike Gesicki, you have Tinsley, you have even Andre Osivas, like those type of guys. If let's just say they fell behind, even though Baltimore's offense hasn't played well, but they do have a 29-point total. That's the type of game where you could be like, oh, great, the Bengals are down by 20 at halftime. My Bengal stack is destroyed. And then at the end of the game, just like last year, be it the Chicago game or the Miami game, they end up being optimal.
That also reminds me, this is going to drive me crazy if I didn't think of another one. The Bengals-Bears game. The Bengals, Joe Flacco threw for like 1 billion yards against the Bears in the game that they were trailing.
They should have won.
That was, 5-6 weeks ago, something like that. What was, let me find Joe Flacco's stat. Okay, here we go. Joe Flacco threw for 470 yards and 4 touchdowns that game. T. Higgins had 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had 111 receiving yards. Chase Brown had 8 catches for 75 yards. Yoshi Voss had 5 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. If you played Noah Fant at tight end, you had out of him 2 catches for 28 yards and a touchdown. I'm sure he was cheap that slate. I don't think there was anybody who was building Joe Flacco plus 5 stacks, but that probably was the nuts for that slate.
Probably. Yeah, right. Exactly. I think it was actually Caleb, but Joe Flacco was yeah. Ty Wild says, I'm worried Burrow won't be able to drive the ball with the turf toe like Purdy Monday night. I don't know, man. Purdy the week before looked perfectly fine. He had a big scramble on the one play. Seemed like he was okay running. And Joe Burrow I would be a little more concerned and Greg, this is just my opinion here, but I would be more concerned if Joe Burrow wasn't a full participant in practice all of last week as well. Like, I'm pretty sure if he had to, he could have played last week as well.
I would be stunned if the Bengals are bringing Joe Burrow back at less than 100%. Look at where they are on the standings. They are 3-8. If they win out the rest of their games, they're still missing the playoffs. They're not bringing him back to try to save the season when he's at like 50 or 60% health. He's 100% good to go, and he wants to play football. So that's why he's playing. There isn't a scenario here where he's playing and is just going to be like, shit, Joe Burrow's foot is still messed up. I think also probably the main reason he didn't play last week is they didn't want him to come back and then play again on 3 days rest just a few days later. So in hindsight, I think it probably does make sense they didn't play on Sunday. And now when he plays this week, they're going to be able to have him play today, his first game back, and then get extra rest before playing again next week. But I would be stunned if we look and just be like, oh, he's still injured and isn't totally healthy.
Yep, exactly. Brandon, I'm pretty sure I won the Minimax last year on Black Friday with Dolphins D at captain. No, because they were on Thanksgiving. However, I do believe, man, my wife asks me to do shit and I immediately forget. And she's like, why can't you just why can't you? You know where I'm going with this, right? You know where I'm going with this? Like, I'm pretty sure 2 years ago on Black Friday, the Jets played the Dolphins. Like, if she heard me saying this stuff, she'd be like, how are you such a moron? And I wouldn't, like, honestly, I would just take it because I would deserve it. It could be something small, like, hey, can you bring up like more rolls of paper towels from the basement? Yeah, I got you. 2 days later, it's like, oh yeah, sorry. It happens all the time, man. My brain is constantly elsewhere. Actually, it's constantly here. So someone go tell me if 2 Black Fridays ago it was Miami and the New York Jets, because I believe I remember sitting in my living room watching that game, probably forgetting to do something I was asked to do months ago. So yeah. Anyway,
I could relate to that. Like bring out the I'll forget to bring out the garbage. But if you ask me where I watched UFC 208 4 years ago, like I can tell you who I watched it with, what happened in all the fights, like where I was sitting and all of that. It's very weird how memories work.
Yeah, man. But I'll get the Christmas lights up because I like doing the Christmas lights. There's certain things where it's like, yeah, I got it. Don't worry. Make everybody happy. Anyway, let's get into it. See what we can do here. Build out some lineups, much different than what we usually do, right? Because typically we're building out like 10, 11, 12, sometimes 13 game slates. And this one, way different. Jahmyr Gibbs once again returns to Thanksgiving because they play every year. Same with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. Prescott's 4-3. You know, he's 4-3 all time on Thanksgiving with his 4 wins coming against the Commanders 3 times, the Giants once, and his losses coming against the Raiders in overtime, the Bills and the Chargers when Phillip Rivers was still there. So, yeah, this, like, I don't look at the Cowboys and go, oh, they're playing at home on Thanksgiving. You know, this team has to smash. Not really, not unless they got the Commanders or Giants, but I am interested in them because it is such a potent offense with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. But Greg, if you don't mind, I would like to start with a Joe Burrow stack this week at 6K.
Okay. So one other thing, I don't know if you remember, we did this last year on the show. I actually thought this was really fun. And it's pretty easy to do this again, starting with the Bengals. What we tried to do last year was make a stack of each team and each game and see which one simmed out the best. And we kind
of nice. See what I mean? You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Let's start with the Bengals then.
All right. So if we're starting with the Bengals and Joe Burrow, already plugged him in, then I assume we're going to want to put Jamar Chase in here and then try to find another stacking partner. Or do you want to go crazy and try to build a stack of Joe Burrow without Chase?
I'll be honest with you. I don't. Now, as I pointed out with that Millie winner last year, Dolphins triple, it didn't have CeeDee Lamb. It did not have Jahmyr Gibbs. It did, however, have Tua Tagovailoa's top pass catcher. So do I think there are a lot of lineups that we can build this week without Jamar Chase? Hands down. Am I comfortable doing it with Joe Burrow? Not really. I think it's really difficult to win a tournament, and not to say it's impossible, but I do think, Greg, that it's difficult to win a tournament when you have Joe Burrow without, arguably the best receiver in the league, which means you'd be going to like Yeshivas, Tinsley, Chase Brown. I just don't think it would sim out well anyway. But even if it did, it's not a spot I love if we're going Burrow.
All right. So we'll start with Burrow and Chase. And now we could also try to figure out who our second favorite stacking option is with him. And for me, it's kind of a tie between Gesicki and Yoshivas. We could always do a triple stack too. Do you have a second favorite stacking partner with Burrow?
Mike Gesicki.
Okay.
For sure. And I'm also okay with going, Yoshivas or even Tinsley or Chase Brown. Like the triple stack here to me makes plenty of sense. And this game could shoot out. By the way, in case you were wondering, Jamar Chase in 2 games against Baltimore last year, can you guess his yardage and touchdown totals in 2 games last year? Just don't even think about it. Just throw 2 numbers out there.
320 yards and 4 touchdowns.
457 yards and 5 touchdowns.
I thought I was putting out a big. Well, you know, didn't he have that one game now? Didn't he have like 270-yard game with 3 touchdowns? Now that I'm thinking about it, or something like that.
Yeah, dude. Well, hold on. Look, he did have one huge game, but the thing is that the other game, by any other standard, was still met. So he had 193 and 2 and 264 and 3. He had 10 for 193 and 2 and 11 for 264 and 3. So both of those games were slate breaking games. I know it's only 2 games, but Baltimore's secondary is they're middle of the road, man. And I mean, Jamar Chase is just that good, but I find those numbers absolutely insane.
Yeah. I should have, if I would have taken the second to think about it, because I realized that after I answered that he had that one, like you said, the 265-yard game with 3 touchdowns, but I wouldn't have gotten to those total numbers. Those are massive, massive numbers.
Massive. So who do you want to go with? Who projects the best if we're going to triple stack this? Because I want to try it.
Yeah, it's pretty easily Yoshi Voss in our projections. We've got him for 4 more fantasy points than Tinsley.
That's reasonable. What do we have Chase Brown for? Because I would know what? Fair. Let's do Chase Brown.
Yeah, I was only thinking that's actually the better call of all this. I did not think of that at all. I was just thinking about the wide receivers.
For sure.
But yeah, we've got Chase Brown projected for 16.76 fantasy points. That is quite a bit higher than Yoshi Voss. Obviously, Brown's more expensive, but only by a couple $1,000, and that's well worth the 8 fantasy point upgrade in projection.
Now, obviously, last year's a 1-game sample. Like, it doesn't actually matter, but to some extent it does. That he won it with the Stokastic Sims, but mind you, he was a Stokastic subscriber. Which he had the Tua triple, but it was running back, tight end, wide receiver. So again, that's not why I'm doing this. I actually just think it's the best build, but this is actually kind of a similar makeup, the Bengals to the Dolphins last year. Now that T. Higgins is out, right? I expect Gesicki to get some good work. Chase is the clear number 1, as Tyreek Hill was last year. And Chase Brown is a quality pass catching back who gets a lot of his points through PPR, just like Devon Achane. Devon Achane only had 7 carries for 14 yards in that game. So I like this, Greg. What do you want to do next? Is it Flowers? Is it, you know what? Is it Henry? I love the tight ends for, like, I would go 2 tight ends here. You know what I would even consider? I would think about going double run back.
It's possible. We could definitely go to Flowers and Andrews both in the lineup, or likely if we wanted to go really crazy is one of the other options. Obviously, we can't go Andrews and likely just because we already have Gesicki in the lineup, but Flowers to me, and then one of the tight ends is what's most sensible. I bring this up a good amount. I very rarely love rostering Derrick Henry on DraftKings just because of his lack of pass catching upside, combined with how many other good running backs there are on the slate. It's only a 3-game slate, so it's not the end of the world to be rostering Derrick Henry, obviously. But I prefer Chase Brown. I prefer Jahmyr Gibbs. I prefer Josh Jacobs. I prefer Javonte Williams. Henry's like my 5th favorite running back for the slate.
Okay, interesting. Let's go. Let's just try a double. Let's go Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. Let's just try
it. Got to press the flex and put Andrews, and then we've got it. So we have Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, Zay Flowers, Mike Gesicki, Mark Andrews. That leaves us $5,500 left for a running back, a wide receiver, and a defense.
Why don't we complete the lineup?
Sorry, what's that?
I said, why don't we try completing the lineup and see what happens when we optimize? Let's try it.
10%. Randomness, complete the lineup. It plugged in for us Josh Jacobs, Rashi Rice, and the
Ooh.
Cowboys defense. And for a 3-game slate, defense versus some of your players, it's going to be unavoidable. And the single lineup sims allow for it. I'm pretty sure that is the restriction we have in here. Any slate that has 3 or less games, it's the same with baseball slates. We allow DSTs against opposing players. It's just something that's impossible to get away from.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, before we run this, yesterday, I put that thread out where I got tips from two of the I think you would agree, Tom Kennedy, our CEO, and Steve Buzzard, the CFO, are two of the best DFS players out there, right? Like Steve took down a millie on a short playoff slate. He has multiple millies, however many. He has a live finals win, however many 200K wins. Tom has dozens of 100K wins. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I did this thread because I said, it feels like my lineups are dead before the turkey's warm. So I reached out to those guys to get some tips. I think you guys will love this if you haven't checked it out yet. Look at Steve's first tip that he had, Greg. Don't fear the offense versus the defensive pairing. That was his first tip that he had for people.
Makes sense because number one, you're really going to limit your options if you don't allow that. There's only 3 games on the entire slate. If you are just saying that no matter what, just blanket, I'm not going to allow defense versus opposing offense players. By the way, only for slates like this. We're not talking about main slates or anything like that. You're going to limit your options. The other thing too, defense scoring is so random. How many times recently have we seen defenses win a slate? And it's because of a special teams touchdown. The Jets, a punt and a kick return touchdown. I think there was a kick return touchdown last week on the main slate as well. So you're just going to have one of these slates where and it seems to happen. This is probably a bias on my end because we're paying attention to the defenses more. It seems to happen constantly on small slates though.
All the time. And his third tip was every lineup needs a story. He says, when you're only building a few lineups, each one should tell a clear winnable story. If you think the Chiefs roll, then build the blowout script. Mahomes, Kelsey, Rice, Worthy, plus a bring back from a desperate trailing offense. If the game that breaks the slate, you likely want very little from the other games. They just can't keep up in that scenario. Let the story guide the lineup, not the other way around, which is perfect because John says Lamar's clearly hurt. I'm not sure this game is going to be high scoring. I think the Chiefs stack, clear game stack to do would be the Chiefs Cowboys. If that's what you like, go for it. I think that Lamar is maybe not healthy, but with Trey Hendrickson out, he might just have enough time to throw in this game. They still have a 29-point total, and this game still has a 50-plus point total. So I could see this game shooting out with Joe Burrow back. And if that's the case, I like the game stack here as well as other spots. I think you could game stack, Greg, every game. I think you could game stack every game and get pretty sick results.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's, it's one of the reasons, other than the fact that it's just fun to do it in the single lineup sims, why I kind of want to do it through all the games here. But now with that in mind, we've got this lineup built out. We could see how the Bengals stack comes out. And then one thing I'm going to do here as well, I'm actually going to label and save all of these lineups so we can compare the sim ROIs at the end.
Awesome.
So here is the Bengals.
Yeah, it's a great idea. That's a nice ROI.
Yep, 65.8%. And then as we build out all of these, we'll have it all saved in here so we can compare at the end. So you see here the fantasy points for the lineup, the ownership projection, the sim ROI, and we'll have one of these for all of the different teams on the slate. So you want to just stick on the same game and go with the Lamar stack next?
Yeah, like you said, let's go through all of them. I think that's easy enough, and this will be fun.
All right. So Lamar, I find it really hard to make a Lamar stack for myself that doesn't have Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I'm okay with Zay. I also want one of the tight ends. I mean, I've mentioned this 1,000 times, but the Bengals, I'm not a big DVP, defense versus position guy, Greg, but I think I mentioned this to you with Hunter Henry last week. The Bengals defense against tight ends is truly a sieve. I mean, they've allowed almost twice as many touchdowns than any other team to tight ends, 13 this year through 11 games. They're allowing double-digit targets per game, almost 200 more receiving yards to tight ends than any other team. They've just been so bad, and I know that Likely hasn't done much, and Andrews is pretty touchdown dependent, but if there was ever a game for the tight ends to wake up, to me, this is the spot.
Yeah. For sure. There's been some spots over the years where teams have, not saying this is the Bengals, but I mean the Bengals defense has been dog shit for a handful of years now. But
Yeah.
there are historically spots that just never change year over year. Remember, like the Falcons against pass catching running backs, like they got destroyed by
Yep.
pass catching running backs for like 8 years in a row. It was just this thing that always happened. The way that their defense was structured. If the Falcons were playing, say, like Alvin Kamara, who they had to face twice per year, just guaranteed he was catching 7, 8, 9 passes against them, and that always happened when they faced pass catching running backs.
You bring up a good point because it's like, a lot of times people stick their noses up and they're like, well, you can't ever look at these type of stats. The only thing that matters are these advanced analytics. It's like, that's not always true. I don't want to live and die by DVP, obviously, but especially when you have a small sample size and you go, oh, wait a second. The reason they've been really good against mobile quarterbacks and haven't allowed rushing yards to quarterbacks is because all 8 quarterbacks they faced this year are pocket passers who are completely immobile. That's different than looking at how tight ends have performed against the Bengals, and it's week over week. So I do think there are some outlier spots. This is one of them. What's the difference in projection for Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews? Because Likely opens up a ton. And whether we put him in or don't, I guarantee when we optimize these lineups, in almost all of them, we're going to be getting double tight ends. And I think that's the way it should be this week.
Yeah, I was running, let me see I know when I was doing some content yesterday and running the Sims, I got to a ton of double tight end lineups.
I liked it
now. It's still a pretty good amount, not as much as what I was getting to yesterday, but still it's like 60% of lineups are double tight ends.
So what do you want to plug in here? What's the difference between Likely and Andrews?
It's pretty decent gap. We've got Andrews for 10.5 fantasy points and Likely for 6.3.
Okay. I do like Likely this week, but let's stick with Mark Andrews here at a reasonable price point. And then I want to run this back with Chase, of course.
Yep. Jamar Chase. And do you want to throw Chase Brown in here too, or just go the one run back?
I'm fine with either, honestly. It makes no difference to me. If you wanted to run this back with 2, I kind of steered the ship on the last one. If you want to run this back with 2, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, well, let me see. All right, so we've got $5,100 left. So we probably do have to go a little bit cheaper at one of the running back spots. We do have a comparable price point between Chase Brown, Javonte Williams, and Josh Jacobs. Yeah, let's just occupy that spot with Chase Brown. And then we've got running back, wide receiver, flex, and the defense left. Pretty thin on salary, only $4,700.
Can you go to defense real quick?
Yeah. Let's see. Sorting by value, the Ravens.
I mean, I would just plug the Chiefs in at 20. What are they? 28?
Yes, we go to the Chiefs at 2,800 or the Cowboys at 2,400. Either of those would be the salary savers here.
Or the Packers at 2,600.
True.
Go to any of them. It makes no difference to me. Go to the cheapest one.
Cowboys it is. They're the cheapest.
Einsteinium, Laffy, and Greg, is there a way to limit the amount of Chase Brown Henry lineups? And you mean Chase Brown and Derrick Henry in the same lineup? I mean, I think the way I would do that, if you're trying to eliminate it, I don't know what the best way to do it is. Like, Greg, you could always just go in, favor a bunch of lineups, and then go into the filters and find lineups that have both of them and remove them, and then just select others.
If you gave each of them a negative 5% ROI boost, you would have a pretty limited amount of lineups that have both of them. The other thing you could do, per Lawfee's point, is, go make a filter in the lineups and select Chase Brown and Derrick Henry in the same lineup. And then I would just remove let's see. I could actually check how many of them I actually have in the same lineup in the last run I did. This is off screen, so I'm doing it on a separate computer, but I'm kind of curious how many it is. But what I would do from here is I'd make the filter that says lineup contains Chase Brown and Derrick Henry. And then what I would do is I would just deselect. Like, I don't know if you have a number in mind of an amount of them you don't want together, but I would then just go in. Let's say you have 10 lineups that are Chase Brown and Derrick Henry, and you don't want more than 5. Then I would just remove the bottom 5 lowest sim ROI lineups of them together. And then I would just select the next 5 unselected ROI lineups that don't contain them together.
Yeah, that's what I would do as well. All right. So now that we have this together with Flowers, Brown, Chase, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, Andrews, and the Cowboys defense, if you optimize it, I assume it's going to, I wonder if it's going to try and force Gibbs, or go ahead and optimize this. Now I'm actually very curious to see what we get here.
All right, so let's optimize it on 10%. And we've got here Lamar Jackson, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams I really like for a 3-game slate. You know what's crazy? Jameson Williams on this 3-game slate is projected for about the same ownership that he had on the Sunday main slate, where he had a total stinker. And people are just like, well, don't want to play Jameson Williams now. This comes with the territory. He's scoring like 0 to 3 fantasy points or like 18 plus fantasy points.
I'll go right back to the well with Jameson. He's what, 40? Was he like 4,800 or something?
He is $4,800, modestly owned at 22%. He's the equivalent of the base, like Kyle Schwarber. His only outcomes are walk, home run, and strikeout. That's what Jameson Williams does every single game. It should not, his games also, they are not correlated at all. Him having a bad game on Sunday has nothing to do with how he's going to do this Thursday, and had nothing to do with how he did last week, where he had a massive game. He's just a big player bust sort of player. That's what you're
totally agree. All right, run it. Let's see what we get here.
By the way, the rest of the lineup: Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Cowboys defense, and now running the sim.
So again, double tight end, totally unsurprising. That is where there you go, 107.1. That salary relief comes in heavy with double tight end. Travis Kelce is very reasonably priced in a decent enough matchup. And Andrews has the best possible matchup for a tight end, which still allows us to get to, this is actually, if you think about this lineup for a second, Greg, you have Lamar Jackson, you still get the Jacobs and Chase Brown, you get Jamar Chase, Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams, and Kelce. That is a sick lineup. You're not really making any sacrifices whatsoever.
I think that you basically only have Pro Bowlers or former Pro Bowlers in the lineup, or just like, potential big play guys.
Like Williams. Exactly. All right, cool. So save that one. We're at 107. Both of those came out nicely. Move on. Excuse me. Move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Before we do, though, I don't know how to say your name, but replace Kelce with Likely. That won't sim out as well, I'm telling you now. However, I do like the idea of going Likely with Andrews. I just probably wouldn't go Flowers in that build. I don't think it'll sim out all that well, though, because you're removing Flowers and Kelce, 2 highly projected guys for Isaiah Likely. But on a massive, like the Millie with the $5 entry and 600,000 entries or whatever it may be, that is a spot where I would actually be okay. Even if that's simmed out at like 2%, I'd still be okay playing it. But I can tell you right now, it's not going to look nearly as good as this one did.
By the way, to answer Dalton's question in the chat, what does it mean when the Sims have so much leverage on Mahomes? It means that in the Sims, the ownership compared to the exposure we get, the exposure is higher, just meaning that the Sims are currently recommending being overweight to the field to him. You're getting more to him than what the field is playing.
Yep. That's all there is to it. By the way, if you guys want to check these tools out for yourself, look, we don't do big sales often, But for Black Friday, Thanksgiving, we always have something for you. And you guys have been DMing me left and right. Do you have any promos? Do you have any codes? I say not now. I say wait, it's coming. 50% off any weekly package. That's core or max. Any weekly package that we have, 50% off with that link in the description. Now, the promo code is gravy, but if you were to just click the link, it's the first one up there, that will auto load it into any subscription that you decide to get, as long as it is weekly or monthly. 50% off. You're getting not just the single lineup sims, right? Not just this, but the pre-contest sims, the post-contest sims, late swap. And this applies if you wanted to get NBA. You could do NBA. You already have NFL. Go for it. Doesn't matter. I mean, the big wins this season in NFL, though, have really been remarkable, man. Like, we've just had nonstop wins. Another Millie win last week. A Stokastic Sims user took down the Millie last Thanksgiving, as we pointed out. We've had 3 already this season, 4 on the year. I mean, it's just been an awesome season. And not only that, Greg, I want people to know that this is not just for high-stakes players. There are a lot of low-stakes players out there, mid-stakes players, who would benefit remarkably well from a tool like this. Why? Well, think about it. Think about it. You benefit from something like this because how many low-stakes players, even a lot of these like low mid-stakes players, are using these type of tools? A lot of people don't even know about them who are playing these low-stakes contests. And you're grabbing 50% off for the week, which includes Thursday, Thanksgiving, and the big showdown slates, Friday, Black Friday, Sunday main, Sunday afternoon, Sunday showdown, Monday showdown. Perfect time to jump in and try this out if you haven't done so yet.
Yep. And then also the exact same promo code, gravy, also applies to the OddsShopper Portfolio EV tools. Just made one promo code to make it super easy for everybody to remember. So if you do want to check out the betting tools, that's what powers the majority of the bets that I place, as well as the bankroll content that I post to Twitter and Tails. It's the same code, gravy, 50% off any of the Portfolio EV packages.
Yeah, man, check them out. Both of them. And it's not like you can only do one and not the other. You can do both and take 50% off. Best time of year. So we're thankful for you guys. Here's our way of giving back 50% off any weekly package for any sport you want. And just use that link down there or use code gravy. But like I said, the link just makes your life a whole lot easier. All right. What do you think? Mahomes, Rice, Kelsey, Worthy?
We could certainly do that. Mahomes is going to be your chalk play at the QB position, but a couple of things here. The Dallas Cowboys pass defense, still not great in my opinion. I was last week, Lofty, I had some really good Eagles double stacks. That was my big boost in the Sims. It was Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert. The Goddard piece, didn't work quite as well, but had good games out of Devonta Smith, had good games out of AJ Brown, and I thought that entire team was under-owned last week because the upside that you get from going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we're not getting the same modest ownership on the Chiefs that we got on the Eagles last week, but all the data we have in our tools says that the 30% ownership, or actually 33% ownership on Patrick Mahomes, the 34% ownership on Rashee Rice, and the 35% ownership on Travis Kelce is all warranted.
I think it is warranted for sure. Now, I do also believe that the Dallas Cowboys defense has improved. You've mentioned it too, and I know you're not saying that Dallas is as bad as they were earlier in the year. Nobody would believe that. But you get Quinnen Williams back, DeMarvion Overshawn is back. Like, they are clicking a little bit. I don't know how much that matters on a slate like this. You have to protect Mahomes, obviously, and Dallas got pretty good pressure against Hurts last week, but I still like it. The one thing that's super weird to me, I won't even say weird, but more interesting, and I think probably information that you guys would want to know as well if you're not using the tools, although, like I said, you should be because you're getting 50% off everything. When I ran the Sims yesterday, I'm actually rerunning them now. Do you by any chance still have a Sims run up or not on a separate tab?
I do, yeah.
You do? Okay. Can you share that on the screen real quick? I want to see something.
Because it's on a different computer.
Okay, no worries. I just pulled it up right now, actually, so we're good to go. So check this out, right? Maybe you see this, you would have thought this is different than I did, but I didn't expect this. So I went into because we're getting a ton of Mahomes, a ton of Mahomes. right now at the quarterback position, and I'm pulling it up on the screen for you guys. Greg and I self-produce these. We try and do the best we can. Ownership to Mahomes, which I'm running 3 uniques here, and it's still 47%. I probably tamp that down a bit. What do you think the split is? And just take a wild guess, or an educated one if you'd like. Just don't take too much time, Greg. What do you think QB +1, so skinny, double, and triple stack breakdown is for somebody like Mahomes this week?
All right, so it has to be majority double stacks just because we only have Rice and Kelsey projected really well. So we have other guys like Worthy projects moderately well, but of the guys who project really well, it's Rice and Kelsey. So I think that's most of the stacks.
Okay. So obviously I agree with that and would have before I looked at this. I did not know that it would only be 3% triples on a slate like this. On a 3-game Thanksgiving slate, I did think we'd be getting more than 3% triple stacks to Patrick Mahomes, but it is predominantly skinnies and actually 11% predominantly doubles, 11% skinny stacks, and only 3% triples, whereas Lamar Jackson actually has 7% almost with the triples. So really interesting way that these are kind of shaping up within the Sims this week.
Yeah. And I'm with you in terms of, like, when I answered the question, I was obviously, based on my answer, I was assuming that it was majority double stacks. I would have assumed there was some more triple stacks.
Yeah, maybe like 10%, right? Yeah. All right, so let's do it with Rice and Kelsey. This seems to be the build.
Yeah, Rice, Kelsey, and then running it back. So I don't even think this is unjustified based on how they've played recently, but I don't think it should be the case going forward. CeeDee Lamb is cheaper than George Pickens this week.
Yeah, I'd love to plug CeeDee Lamb in here. And they project for the same fantasy points, but I like CeeDee Lamb in this spot.
Yeah, about the same fantasy point projection, about the same ownership, but yeah, once again, going forward, I expect CeeDee Lamb to have a better season than George Pickens, just from this week on, assuming good health for both of them.
I see it the same way. So we've got the double with the bring back. Let me look at the Sims results here. Are the Patrick Mahomes? Wow, a lot of QB +2 with no run back. Here's one run back. It is Javonte, Pickens. Really? How far do I have to go to get a Mahomes CeeDee Lamb run back? Okay, there's one. I went down like 20 lineups to find the first CeeDee Lamb run back, but let's try it because I'm with you here. $6,900. CeeDee Lamb was a colossal disappointment last year. He had like 2 receptions for 39 yards in the entire game. I like him this week. I'm with you, man. So let's do it.
So we've got Mahomes, Rice, Lamb, Kelsey. Defense.
Can I answer that? I just want to answer the question in chat real quick. Chris asks, how do you determine what percentage of randomness you use on a single lineup generator? The way I do it, I'll run it on 0 randomness if I'm already going with a unique kind of high leverage stack. If Greg and I decide that we want to go with a super chalky build, then like a super chalky core, then I'll ramp the randomness up. So to me, it's like, hey, I don't want to run this on randomness because I'm already doing something that's pretty like, you know, that the randomizer would throw in there if you've got 20% randomness. But if I'm going really chalky with like 4 or 5 guys that we plug in, I don't want to run that on 0% randomness because then we're pretty much just going to run the optimal lineup. And by optimal, I mean optimally projected lineup, which won't sim out well. And you typically don't want to do, especially on a short slate like this.
Yep. Nothing to add. I completely agree.
Do you want to optimize this or should we plug somebody in at running back? Because we keep getting Josh Jacobs.
Let's run one more here with the optimizer. We'll see if Jacob shows up again. Look at that. He didn't this time. So we've got Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, the nemesis here of Weinsteinium, the Derrick Henry, Chase Brown lineup together. Then we've got Rashee Rice, CeeDee Lamb, Jameson Williams, Travis Kelce, Mike Gesicki, and the Cowboys defense. I don't love, so despite what we talked about before, I don't love getting the Cowboys defense in a game stack here, but I also don't really think it's the end of the world if that's what is needed to make the lineup work from a salary perspective.
Let's see. Rice, Chase Brown, Derrick Henry. This is a really interesting build. Once again, we just have a ton of studs, and even Gesicki looks good. This is a sick build.
Yeah. Like I said, the only part that gives me a little bit of pause is just the Cowboys defense against the Chiefs game stack, which, we got 46. I wonder if let's
take
try
them out.
Yeah. Because let's take them out and let's take out Henry and Brown. I'm just going to plug in a different defense. So instead, I'm going to I'll put the Ravens defense in. I'm going to put the Ravens defense in. I'll take out Gesicki. So we've got 5,400 for a flex and 2 running back spots left. Let's complete it this way. And now we got Jacobs, Brown, and Brock Wright showed up in the lineup. Let's just run it like this and see what difference that makes without the defense versus the stack.
Okay, and then after we do that, can we go back 61? Can we do one more thing? So go back to the lineup that we had with Henry, right, over Jacobs, and then Gesicki instead of Wright. So get rid of Jacobs, get rid of Brock Wright, put Henry and Mike Gesicki back in.
Okay, so you wanted Henry.
Yeah, the same build that we had before. And then Mike Gesicki right there.
Yeah, okay, so I guess we have to take
Williams. No. Just take the defense out. All I want to do is change the defense from the original lineup is what I'm saying.
Oh, gotcha.
So we can go.
I think that was the only defense that made the salary work.
I think the Bengals are 22.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right.
So it's ugly, but if you buy into Lamar Jackson struggling, So now we have one player against the defense, which isn't really that big of a deal. Just curious if this looks any better.
Let me.
You got to plug Jameson Williams in. Wasn't it Williams over Dobbs?
Yeah, I just went to Dobbs because we had the salary to use because we had the. He's cheaper, but he does project better for us.
Let's just see how it looks. Let's see how much difference the correlated defense and then plugging another bad defense in looks.
Yeah, we do have the Cowboys defense projected better, but still you'll see that we have just the defense not being against the stack. So just kind of something we talked about before, it's okay to play a defense against individual players. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, though, to go defense against your stack. That's a little bit too much.
I agree. And in this case, we got this to almost 70%.
Yeah. All right. Cowboys time. So here's what we've got so far. 3 lineups built out. Bengals stack, 65.8% sim ROI. The Chiefs stack had a 69.5% sim ROI. And the Ravens winning right now with the 107.1% sim ROI.
I feel like I do need to ask you, where are you at on Josh Jacobs? We know that he's expected to play, but it is on paper, definitely a difficult matchup. He's coming back from an injury. And Emmanuel Wilson acquitted himself really well last week. Jacobs worries me a little bit this week, and maybe he shouldn't, but I have some reservations there.
It doesn't really worry me all that much. Here's what I think in hindsight. This is a very, very high leverage game for the Green Bay Packers. Last week, they knew they were going to be playing on a short week. Like they knew that Jacobs wasn't 100%. They were going to be playing Sunday, quick turnaround Thursday. I think they just wanted to make sure he was completely 100% good to go for this game. I think if this game was being played on Sunday instead of Thursday, probably a better chance Jacobs would have played on that Sunday.
Dude, I don't know. Jacobs' rushing prop is 55.5. Wilson's rushing prop is 31.5.
Part of that too, though, is Jacobs just overall hasn't had a great year. Like he doesn't have a single 100-yard rushing game for the season, and he's only averaging 3.8 yards per carry. I think it's more to the point that Emmanuel Wilson might be better running the football this year than Josh Jacobs has been.
I mean, hear me out. 55 to 31. They have a 24-yard gap in rushing yards. I don't know. That's a little bit concerning to me.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
Emmanuel Wilson's plus 270 to score. Jacobs is minus 120. That's got to be the biggest, the smallest split we've seen all year.
From a betting perspective, I haven't looked to see what boosts are available. Here's a boost that I actually like to use considering those props. Emmanuel Wilson under rushing yards, Josh Jacobs over rushing yards, and then find something else from the game too.
Okay. What about the inverse of that?
Yeah, if you do think so, to me, like I think Jacobs is going to be fine relative to his normal workload for this week. If you or anybody else thinks differently, you could absolutely do the inverse and do under rushing yards for Josh Jacobs, over rushing yards for Emmanuel Wilson, maybe even take the Emmanuel Wilson like plus 220 to score a touchdown. I assume with a boost, that's going to be what, like 10, 12 to 1, something like that. Definitely. And it's clearly very, very heavily correlated. But yeah, I think there's something to do there with a boost and a correlation bet.
Justin, Jacobs is still elite. He can easily break the slate. Yeah, sure. I don't think Jacobs was ever elite, if we're being honest. I think he's pretty touchdown dependent. I think he's good. Wouldn't say he's elite.
I look at his numbers this year. I think it's pretty hard to make a case that he's been really good. Other than that, yes, if you're just talking from a fantasy perspective, he's elite in terms of he scores a bunch of touchdowns, therefore he scores fantasy points. As a real life player, though, he doesn't have a single 100-yard rushing game this year, and he's averaging 3.8 yards per carry. That's pretty poor efficiency for an offense that's overall been good.
Yep. Texas Tater Tot. Do the sims work well on mobile? The single lineup sims work great on mobile. We designed them to be great on mobile. The pre-contest sims, the sims themselves, if you're playing a lot of lineups, I wouldn't recommend it. You can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it because you can't have them designed for mobile. It just doesn't make any sense.
You need to have one of those gigantic phones. Like my brother is one of these Samsungs that opens up and it's like the size of an iPad. So like if you've got one of those gigantic phones, then it's probably a little bit easier to navigate. You could use them. It's just not going to be seamless using the pre-contest sims and then trying to use, CSVs and whatnot with it.
Do you think the Dallas stack ends up simming out worse than all these other ones? Maybe Jordan Love stacks, but
we're about to find out.
Yeah, we are. I have a feeling it's just not going to be great, given that you're paying a premium on both. Not a premium, but you're paying, like a relatively high price tag on two of the top wide receivers. I just have a feeling a Lamb Pickens lineup won't sim out well.
We could try it with Kelsey as the run back, I guess.
Go ahead. Try it.
All right. So we've got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Travis Kelce. And then we've got $4,900 left. To your point, it's pretty expensive because you've got Lamb and Pickens are the 4th and 5th most expensive wide receivers on the slate.
Yeah. You're going to have to go double tight end here. I have very little doubt that it's going to be almost all of these will probably be double tight ends, unless you're going like David Montgomery, which is a bit of a tough spot to do. So, we could try it, see how it sims. You could plug Dallas D in here if you want. I don't really care who we plug in. Greg put in Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews already, so we got the 2 tight end build with Lamb, Pickens, and Kelce. No issues with that.
I just plugged in the Packers D because it's outside of the game stack and they're fairly cheap at $2,600.
Sure. I don't hate that.
Gives us
Let's just complete
$200 left for wide receiver and 2 running backs.
I say we just complete this one. I'm very curious to see now how this sims out with the double with Lamb and Pickens.
All right. Henry, Brown, and Dobbs rounded out the lineup. So we've got Dak Prescott, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Romeo Dobbs, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Packers defense. And I think this is going to be our lowest sim stack. It is, but not by much.
Not by much.
61.2% sim ROI for the Cowboys. So a little bit below the Chiefs and the Bengals stack, but not by a massive amount. 61.2 versus 65.8 and 69.5%.
Adrian says put in Hunt. Yeah, you could. I don't.
Pacheco's back.
With Isaiah Pacheco back, Ben said yesterday that he's actually still willing to get to some Kareem Hunt. And he made a pretty logical argument for it, just that Pacheco hasn't been good in, literally almost 2 calendar years. So there is that. But when you have a slate with Henry in a good matchup, Chase Brown, even with Pirine back, but you get Joe Burrow. Jacobs at 6,800. I don't love him, but I understand it. Javonte, who's just been great. Tough matchup. Gibbs, who's literally just taking that backfield over. Yeah, I don't know. I guess Kareem Hunt is okay. I guess to Ben's point, yeah, like Pacheco just hasn't been good at all. But does Hunt get enough work given that in most spots and most weeks, he's pretty inefficient and he gets there on volume? To me, that's difficult, man. It's hard for me to pull the trigger on a guy like that this week.
Top 150 lineups that I got in the Sims, 0% Kareem Hunt. He's a tough recommend for me.
Do you know how many carries he had last week?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I also
just take a guess.
Relevant because Pacheco is out now. Pacheco's back.
No, I know, but take a guess. I have a point in asking you this.
13?
30.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't remember at all.
The reason, though, is like he had 30 carries in that game, and he still barely got over 100 yards, right? Like he had 104 yards. He averaged 3.5 yards per attempt.
It was also such an outlier game for a couple of reasons. First off, so the reason I guessed the number I did was just I know he generally doesn't get a lot of touches.
Yeah.
The game went to overtime last week. That's one thing that added into it. Pacheco was also out. His season high for carries before last week was 13.
I know. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Brendan says that makes me lean with Ben. Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. That's the thing, Brendan. Like, first of all, that game was really unique in that they leaned heavily into Kareem Hunt and they went to overtime. That has not been the case. Even with Isaiah Pacheco out this year in certain spots, Kareem Hunt's workload has still been very low. So either you believe that they are going to continue to force feed, an aging veteran, you could call him a journeyman at this point, who they trust, but now Pacheco's back, or they go back to what they've done literally all season long, even with Pacheco out. For me, one game is a little bit difficult for me to kind of say, hey, we really have our finger on the pulse now. This is the team that's just going to run Kareem Hunt for 3 yards per attempt and get him the ball 30 times against the Cowboys in Dallas, who have a very good offense.
You look at every single game that Kareem Hunt has had for the entire season. Like I said before, his season high was 13 carries before last week. Do we think he just has 30 carries now? Like this is just a thing he does, or was last week an outlier, especially when Pacheco, who over the last couple of years has had more touches than Kareem Hunt when they've both been healthy, is back. Like I think Kareem Hunt probably has 5 to 10 rushing attempts this game.
He has a 32.5 yard rushing prop. He doesn't have a rushing attempts prop yet, but he has a 32.5 yard rushing prop.
Which, given how many yards per carry he averages for the season, that's an expectation of about 7 rush attempts.
Which seems low.
It doesn't to me. Not with Pacheco back. That's what he was averaging when Pacheco was playing.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to see if Bet365 actually has rushing intent prop. They
Also,
do, but not for Hunt and Pacheco.
One thing to add to this while we're looking through this, guys, look at the running backs we have available on the slate. Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, Javonte Williams, who's had a big season as well. Here's what I actually think. If this is the archetype of a player you want to roster, David Montgomery is the same as Kareem Hunt, but $500 cheaper and a better version of him.
I agree with that. I do. And David Montgomery, while we didn't see it the last 2 weeks, they were playing from behind. When you look at the last game that the Lions won handily, and I'm not saying this will happen, but let's just take the last game, Greg, that had a neutral to positive game script. I mentioned this to Ben yesterday because I think there's something there. David Montgomery in that game had 15 carries. You know, in the game before that, semi-close, 11 carries. In that easy win against Tampa Bay, he didn't perform well, and he hasn't performed well this season, but he had 13 carries. In the loss to Kansas City, he only had 4 and 2 targets. Easy win over Cincinnati. He has 18 carries. So there is definitely a pattern that we've learned with David Montgomery. If they are not trailing and playing with a deficit and struggling to move the football, which is when they're going to go to Gibbs anyway. But in a game where they might have a neutral to positive game script, David Montgomery could still easily have like 13 touches.
Yeah. And people are saying that Hunt gets all the red zone touches. Realistically, what's a ceiling game out of Kareem Hunt? 30 to 40 yards and 2 touchdowns? Something like that?
Like 60 and 2.
I'll be, this is not a bit not being like facetious or anything like that. That legitimately might not be enough to outscore the other running backs on the slate.
Yeah, maybe not.
It would be 18 fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
If you give him 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, you would need that because he's not that much cheaper than Chase Brown, Javonte Williams, Josh. He's $1,000 cheaper than these guys. He's going to have to score more. In all likelihood, he's going to have to score more fantasy points than all those guys. And he's not unowned either.
No, it's a tough spot to get to. But look, if you like him, if you guys think that he's just taking over and Pacheco is kind of not going to get the work, then do it. Yeah, I'm not telling you what to do, but there are reasons against him as well. All right, lock Jared Goff in. Let's see what we can do here.
All right, so here we go. We have got the final game, which is also the first game on the slate. We're working backwards here. We've got Jared Goff and Jordan Love. I do think you'd mentioned this before. I think Jordan Love stacks are going to sim out the worst of any of them on the slate. So we'll save the worst for last here with Jordan Love. But we'll go Jared Goff. And who do we want to pair Goff with? I guess, do we want to go with Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown?
What if we went, I have no clue if this would work, but what if we went Gibbs, Brock Wright, and Jameson Williams?
Oh, so no Amon-Ra then.
Yeah, I mean, I ran the Sims, and while we don't have a lot of Jared Goff, only 8%, 6% of them are triple stacks. So that's worth keeping in mind. Our exposure to Amon-Ra St. Brown is 22%. Not much. We're actually getting 27% Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting 25% Brock Wright, and we're getting 30% Jahmyr Gibbs. I would be curious to see how this one plays out. And I do think this is different than like fading Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow doesn't have a Gibbs and doesn't have a Jameson Williams.
Dobbs is the run back?
Does he project better than Christian Watson this week? He does, but I do like Christian Watson this week. But yeah, we can go Dobbs.
All right, so let's go Dobbs. So that is going to give us $5,800 left for running back, wide receiver, flex, and defense.
That gives us a lot once you plug in a cheap defense. Let's just optimize it without putting the defense in at all.
Oh, whoops. I have to have the rest of the game selected. All right, here we go. All right, so we got Goff, Gibbs, Jacobs, Rashee Rice, Jameson Williams, Romeo Dobbs, Brock Wright, Zay Flowers, Chiefs defense.
Okay.
I don't
Not
mind
my
that we
favorite.
got the double run back with Jacobs added to the mix as well. Let's see how this looks.
Not my favorite build, but 84% are second best so far.
All right. That came out better than I thought it was going to.
I actually like it. Brandon, St. Brown gets like 10 targets a game. He's Goff's safety blanket. Yeah, well aware of that. Like, he's clearly still the best option in the passing game, but you know, if you're not getting the St. Brown in this build, but you can still get to a similarly priced Rashee Rice could have 10 targets in this game, on this slate too.
Final lineup, it is going to be Jordan Love. Who do we want to pair Jordan Love with?
Adrian, what's wrong with Zay Flowers? He hasn't scored, which has been a problem this year. He's not scoring, but it's the Cincinnati Bengals, man. Baltimore has the highest implied total on the slate. So I like him. Yeah, let's pair Jordan. Oh, God. I'm glad we saved this for last, but maybe we should have just gotten it out of the way. Watch it wins. Watch it wins. This probably go. I don't want to pair him with Jacobs.
So then we're going. I don't really want to pair him with Musgrave either. I guess we're just going Dobbs and Watson.
Probably.
Gibbs has to be a run back here, I think.
Yeah. I am going into the Sims and cheating a little bit just to see what so like the highest Sim lineup we have with Love is Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks. Then Jacobs and Dobbs, Jacobs and Dobbs, Jacobs and Dobbs, Jacobs and Dobbs plus Wicks, Jacobs, Dobbs. Wow. I just don't love it. I don't. And these are pretty low as far as like if you were to take the simmed ROI, a lot of these are simmed pretty far down the list, man.
All right. Well, let's try the Watson Dobbs. We've got Gibbs as a run back. Who is just because you have it in front of you, and we'll try to make this as good of a lineup as it could possibly be. Who are the running backs overall do you have the most exposure to in the Sims? And I'll add all of them in here.
Yeah, sure. Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Javonte, and Jahmyr Gibbs in that order.
All right. So let's go Henry and Brown.
Okay. Yeah, because and by the way, Greg, this speaks to the question Chris had about randomness. You have no problem going with the two super chalky running backs in a build like this because this is not going to be a popular stack.
No, I mean, we've got it's all relative to the size of the slate, but yeah, Love is the least popular quarterback. And then you've got for a 3-game slate, Christian Watson for a starting wide receiver, 18% is modest ownership. And then also Christian Watson, it's overall the Packers pass catcher has been banged up throughout the year, Christian Watson included. He missed the start of the season, but he's healthier now. And he is their best of the guys they have available. He's their best down the field threat right now.
Yeah. Okay. So let me take a guess here what we're going to get.
Okay.
This would be a fun way to close out the show. By the way, if you guys aren't over on Tails yet, highly suggest you do so, man. I just got a push notification from the Tails app, Greg, that said Thanksgiving bets are flowing in. Yes, and I've already got a bunch of them pumped up. I got my leans for here. I got a little Isaiah Likely plus 692 SGP. You go into the Explore page. What do you find here? Oh, would you look at that? Thanksgiving Day football and the trending topics. Who wouldn't want to be on Tails? I mean, I'm doing it on desktop, but on the app, it's even easier. Look at this. DFS and Donuts. Mitch just absolutely kills. Here you go. Thanksgiving plus Friday first look. His entire breakdown. All of that stuff. Super applicable for DFS stuff as well. Thanksgiving cheat sheet parlay. Oh, dude. Look at all this stuff, Greg. There's just so much wonderful stuff here. And you can just click on that tab and you're in business.
Yeah. And then also, I'm sure as a lot of you guys know, if you just press on the tail bet there
Yeah, hold on.
for
Yep.
any of those bets, if you just press tail bet, you'll see all of the odds show up. You can compare them across sports books. So you see there that there was a bunch of bets that Mitch had posted there. You could see what they look like individually on all the different books. And you can just one click on that. It'll load the bet slip into the selected book. And it'll be super easy to bet it from that way with the best available odds.
Yep. You can take this Isaiah Likely parlay, tail it. Where do we get? It's not accounting for the SGP, but where can we find the best odds? Here we go. Here we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Mangone, sharp guy too. You know he's in the DFS streets, has been for a long time, all of that. So check it out. Yo, if you're not there, get on there for Thanksgiving and for Black Friday. You know, just so much stuff going on. NBA Cup tonight. You can grab all of those bets. NHL bets, college basketball, all the parlays, new experts on the platform. Check out the leaderboard as well. By the way, this is all free. I probably should have led with that. This is all free. Who's on a heater, long shots, who's trending. Look at that, man. Look at all that. It's great stuff. And of course, if you guys this Thanksgiving could be so kind, Greg and I don't ask for much. The one thing, if you love the app, if you love the platform, can you hop into the App Store or the Google Play Store? Leave us a review and a rating. Takes 2 seconds. Say happy Thanksgiving if you need to. You know what I mean? We got a 50% off sale this week. We got free bets, free DFS content. We want you guys to have a great holiday. I want to have a great holiday. You know how you can make my holiday better? Leave us a rating and a review over on the Tails app and take a couple seconds of your time. Thank you. That was a public service announcement. All right, Greg. Let's go.
Want to randomize the final few spots?
Yeah, and Kingston D Bot. You guys ignoring me that because I don't send money? Here you go. Ain't much something better. First of all, man, you never have to super chat. Appreciate that. Not ignoring you at all. We hit comments without super chats all the time. I just simply didn't see it. But thanks, man. Appreciate it. Now I'll go back and see what you said. Watch us just hurling insults at us, and he pays $5 for us to say it.
I hope it's just calling Eric an idiot. Let's see. All right, Kingston.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, in general, actually, we kind of did talk about this, actually. He said Hunt gets all the goal line carries. So actually, I did, you might have missed it. I actually did read that and respond to it. We didn't put the comment on screen, but not only did I respond to it, I messaged in chat about it too.
Oh, he said, I'm not saying Brown's not consistent. Now,
okay, yeah. So,
I mean, but that's not really, in fairness, I can't read, we're not going to read every single comment. Sometimes you guys congregate in the comment section and hash it out yourselves, which Brandon Bowser, as a matter of fact, did. So, yeah.
Yeah. But Kingston, we actually, about Hunt, the goal line carries. I responded to that in the YouTube chat. I think it's actually one of the only things I responded to in YouTube chat over the course of the show. And we talked about it while we were talking about Kareem Hunt and his touchdown equity.
Anyway, thanks for the super chat. Jeff Williams, who's the defense most likely to score 1 or 2 touchdowns to break the slate and why? Happy thanks. Jeff, thank you. I have no fucking clue, dude. I have no idea. I mean, honestly, if you just wanted to, okay, maybe Baltimore because Joe Burrow's coming back from an injury, but I don't know.
It's
what?
All right. So the answer is it's pretty random. If I want to give you the best, most educated
Baltimore.
guess I could possibly give you, it is going to be probably I'm going to say the Ravens defense, just because of all the teams, who's most likely to be playing from behind and throwing the most? That's the Bengals. And that's how defenses primarily score touchdowns in all likelihood, is when teams are attempting passes. So I'll say the Ravens.
So this is our build. Gibbs, Henry, with Love, who has Dobbs and Christian Watson attached. CeeDee Lamb popped into this one. Interesting. Mike Gesicki, Chase Brown. So double Bengals, fine with that.
And the Packers defense. So a little bit of a Packers onslaught.
Wait, take a guess. I'm going to say 32. I'm going to say 29.
I'm going to say 20. Okay,
Ooh,
lower. 10.
You were closer. 10%.
All right. So here's what we have for a final roundup. I'll just let everybody know the order of from bottom to top. Packers stack 9.7% sim ROI. Cowboys stack 61.2%. Bengals 65.8. Chiefs 69.5. Lions 84.2. And the Ravens led the way in the lineups with a 107.1% sim ROI.
Hey, you should post them to Tails.
Sure.
Post like all 6 of those. You could do 2 different screenshots. Post them to Tails, and then we can link people to the strategy show who weren't able to maybe catch it live.
I like it.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys. We love you all. I hope you have an awesome Thanksgiving. I will be here tomorrow. Yes, working on Thanksgiving. No, it's fine. Don't. It's fine. I'll be here with, I think, Eric, right?
Yep, it's going to be Loughran and Eric, and we're doing the show from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time, so you guys could either watch it live or there'll be a little bit of an hour buffer between when the show ends and when the slate starts, so you'll have a little bit of time to watch it on repeat as well if you are not available there right at the time that it's going to be on the air.
Well, there you have it. And Alan said, y'all suggest a month or weekly if I buy the tools. Typically, I would say monthly, but you're getting 50% off the week with the promo Gravy with the link in the description, Alan. And we're running that for Black Friday sale. It's active now. The reason I say it's a perfect time is because, as I mentioned earlier, you get the Thanksgiving slate, but you get the sims and the single lineup sims for all of those showdown slates as well. You get the showdown Black Friday game. You get main slate Sunday, afternoon slate, showdown Sunday, Monday. I mean, realistically, because they run such big showdown slates for Thanksgiving, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's like 9 slates right there just for the week that you'd be getting. So keep that in mind. That's a lot of football, a lot of big prize pools, and you're getting 50% off any weekly core or max package. So that would be my recommendation for now. And of course, you can always use the link in the description if you wanted to get a free month of core. Just sign up with any of our sportsbook partners, but you guys already know that. Anyway, Greg, anything else before we get out of here? Longer show today, but Thanksgiving slate. I love the idea of running it back as we did it last year, building one for every team. This was a fun show.
Yep. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and have a great holiday.
Happy Thanksgiving. See you back here tomorrow, 11 Eastern. We're not going live up until 1. We're going 11 to 12, so I can do other things, and so I can get some lineups in on top of that. Great rest of the day. Happy Thanksgiving if we don't see you back here tomorrow. Greg and I will see you on Friday, lineup sim show for the main slate. And then, of course, Sunday, we do it all as we always do. Bye-bye.